On a day when Sanji is away, no one on the train knows how to cook, so Nami suggests that she cook. As long as each person gives her 5,000 belly is fine. The others refuse because it's all their pocket money, so Luffy volunteers to cook for free for everyone. When he goes into the kitchen to prepare everything, Luffy doesn't know how to cook. Thinking too much leads to a headache, so Luffy shreds the food to make a mixed dish. At this time, Pedro jumps down from above to find Luffy to tell him that the revolutionary base has been destroyed. Luffy immediately introduces Sabo as his brother, which surprises everyone. Luffy now knows the face of Dragon, his father, and the leader of the Revolutionary Army, which surprises everyone. The article states that Blackbeard attacked and destroyed the base of the Revolutionary Army, which made Luffy very angry. At this time, Chopper kept calling Luffy because he smelled burning. They looked back at the kitchen and saw that it had exploded. Also at Luffy for the first time in the kitchen, so he forgot to turn off the fire, causing the stove to explode, which made Sunny too scared. At this time, everyone wanted to put out the fire, but Nami said there was an upcoming storm. The sea began to ripple, and the winds was strong. Nami said everyone should retract the sails. The fire will be automatically extinguished. Luffy saw that the consequences he had caused were gradually disappearing, so he jumped up and retracted the sails with everyone, and the big waves began to push their boat violently. After the storm, they went to another place, and the sea was quiet but it was snowing. Luffy immediately brought out the food he had cooked earlier, but everyone was vomiting and couldn't eat this homemade Luffy food. Luffy didn't believe it, so he tried his food. As a result, he also had to vomit. Nami goes into the kitchen and is surprised when Luffy has used up all the ingredients she has reserved, which makes her angry. The others start to feel too hungry. Carrot wants to eat spoiled food, but Nami stops her. Outside, Luffy has lost consciousness and wants to catch Chopper to eat him, but Brook stops Luffy. Otherwise, the Straw Hat Pirates will lose a member. Nami sees this, so she immediately goes to hit Luffy to put an end to his hallucinations. When everyone is moody, Pedro suddenly discovers that there is an island in front of them, which makes Nami and everyone excited. Luffy decides to tell everyone to go to the island in front of them to find food. Suddenly, Peckham stops them because the island in front of them is a naval base. But in the end, during that night, Nami and the others decide to steal the Navy's food so that Peckham and Pedro can stay and keep the boat. Pedro also reminding them that if Luffy is going with them, they must be careful and vigilant, because this island has navies with a very ferocious temperament. Inside the submarine, Luffy repeatedly bit Chopper, so he was beaten by Nami to the point of bruising. Finally, they stopped the submarine under the cliff. When they went up, there were a lot of navies strictly guarding. At this time, the Navy cargo ship had also entered the port, so Vice Admiral Brody went out to observe. Suddenly, a Navy fired artillery shells at the cargo ship below. A red-haired Navy rushed over and took down these Navy soldiers easily and thought that these Marines were too weak, so all the Marines rushed into battle with him. But as a result, this red-haired Navy used his mysterious power and punched through the floor, knocking out all the surrounding navies. After jumping up the cliff, this chicken-haired Navy immediately criticized these soldiers for being too weak, so he wanted them to return to their old unit. This angered Vice Admiral Brody. In the woods, Brook used his soul to scare the Navy into fainting. They start wearing Navy clothes and camouflage. Luffy doesn't want to wear Navy clothes, but is scolded by Nami, so he has to accept. At this point, Brook says that he will go back to the submarine to protect. Chopper discovers that the Navy is stockpiling food in a tower, but it is near the headquarters, so they have to be careful. However, Luffy and Carrot went ahead. Vice Admiral Brody is angrily calling Garp to blame why he sent this young Navy to his base. Garp has nothing to say because he wants to go to that base, so Garp asks Brody to help him, and then hangs up. At this time, Kobe is also curious why this young Navy wants to move to that remote base. This young Navy came to see Brody and said that he wanted to come here to deal with Big Mom, because this place was quite close to hers. Brody read this young Navy's resume and knew that this young man was named Ground, 17 years old, and had served as a Navy colonel. He had previously been trained by Aokiji. Brody, when he learns that Ground is Aokiji's disciple, immediately teases him that Aokiji is useless, who lost when competing for the position of Fleet Admiral with a Kainu. Ground is extremely angry that Brody dares to speak ill of his master. Brody immediately orders his subordinates to take Ground out to rest. On the other side, Luffy and Carrot are wandering around looking for food, so they go straight to the headquarters building, which makes Nami and Chopper helpless as well. Inside the building, Ground is taken to the cafeteria. Everyone here sees him, and they start to cause trouble, because he had hit them before. One of them had angrily rushed to Brown, but they were easily defeated by Ground. Just as the other navies were about to rush in, suddenly a huge man appeared behind Brown. The others thought the two of them were going to fight, but they hugged each other. It turned out that these two were friends. This big man was named Bonham. Another friend named Jabba was eating with a bad feeling, because since he came here every time he saw beautiful girls he had proposed to them, but he had been rejected. When the three of them left, Luffy and Carrot were also here. Both of them were happy to receive 2 plates of curry rice. Outside, the Navy soldiers were patrolling, and they found out that their comrades had been robbed of their costumes, so they reported to the commander. Inside the headquarters, after hearing the soldiers report that they had been stripped of their clothes by the ghost, Brody could not believe it and criticized his subordinates. Brody ordered to patrol all the coasts for intruders. Below the canteen, Ground is not used to eating the food here, so he feels very spicy with the food here. Nami and Chopper walk in. They don't expect Luffy and Carrot to be as natural as at home, but when they look down at the food below, they are also drooling. Suddenly Nami is held back by the chef ant because she has never seen Nami before. She thinks Nami is a rookie, so she prioritizes Nami and Chopper more plates of food than others. The two of them both thank their aunt and start eating deliciously. Inside the control room, through the surveillance snail, the intruders still haven't been found, which makes Brody angry. Under the dining room, Carrot suddenly sees Nami and Chopper, so she calls out their names out loud, causing the two of them to spit out rice. Jabba sits on top, and when he hears someone calling Nami's name, he suddenly wakes up. After seeing Nami, he thinks he is hallucinating and swallows saliva. Jabba suddenly rushes to Nami's place, revealing that she is a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Nami didn't blink and lied that her name was Mina, who had just moved to work. But Jabba took out Nami's wanted paper, which made her undeniable, thinking that something would happen. But Jabba was a big fan of Nami. Except for sleeping, he watches Nami the rest of the time. Jabba started doing sweet things that made Nami chill down his spine. Taking this opportunity, Jabba immediately proposed to Nami, but Nami immediately refused. Just as he was about to kiss Nami, suddenly, a spoon touched his mouth. It turned out to be the chef's aunt. She said that Nami had been running away for a while, which made him wake up in fear. Nami hid behind the wall, scared and sweating, because she thought she had just met a pervert. On the other side, Luffy hugged the curry pot and walked away to the surprise of the Navy. Inside, Vice Admiral Brody was angry because he had not found the intruder when suddenly a soldier discovered the chaos and turned the camera on Luffy's side. Brody sees this and realizes that this guy is Garp's nephew. He immediately rings the alarm that they have discovered the intruder eating curry in the kitchen. He is Luffy, the Straw Hat. Ground was eating nearby, heard the announcement of Luffy's name, immediately ran to check. Nami and Chopper saw this and ran first. The Marines at this time began to surround Carrot and Luffy, but at this time, Luffy still didn't know that he had been discovered. Ground thought that Luffy was just an idiot, so he would easily take down Luffy. Carrot says that they have been exposed and have to run away now, but Luffy continues to eat well. Jabba also wants to defeat Luffy, but he does it not for fame, but to win Luffy's Nami. Luffy remains carefree and innocently eats another pot of curry despite the Navy soldiers who are surrounding him. Ground thinks that Luffy is a notorious pirate, but he has too many stupid actions, so Ground rushes down to attack Luffy. Luffy blocks Ground's attack with a spoon easily. Outside, Nami and Chopper see that all the Navy has gathered to capture Luffy. But Nami believes that the Navy will not be able to catch Luffy when he is hungry. The two of them decide to go to the food depot to get food. When they go to the place, Chopper sees the door locked, so Nami uses his stealing skills to unlock it. Luffy and Ground were still fighting. It seemed that Ground was not Luffy's opponent. Bonham witnessed them fighting, and he criticized his friend for fighting so badly, so he stepped forward and burst out of strength, making his body suddenly huge. Bonham used his finger to pierce Luffy's curry pot, then repeatedly attacked Luffy with this move. Bonham introduced himself as the Rokushiki Master, and then threw a sharp kick that broke the entire table and chair. Luffy didn't care about Bonham's words because he was feeling hungry. Then Bonham sarcastically said that Luffy could only run away, but Luffy shot him away with his rubber fist. When they just ran out, Jabba seduced Carrot with carrots. Then he gave all the carrots to Carrot. Carrot was so happy that he jumped up and bit Jabba's ear, causing him to be so happy that he fell on his back. When Luffy asked Carrot to continue running away, made Jabba angry and thought that both Nami and Carrot were seduced by Luffy. Jabba rushed to attack Luffy, but Luffy stopped him with haki, and suddenly Carrot electrocuted Jabba, causing him to faint in joy. At this time, Brooke suddenly came and wanted to see Carrot's little pants that scared her. Brooke said that they had discovered the pantry, so Brooke led the two of them there under the pursuit of 3 Navy recruits. Suddenly, the Navy soldiers ran out of their way but were blown away by Luffy. Carrot also lunged forward with his electric claws to take down the Marines. At this time, the 3 young Marines also came to ridicule them that they were really stupid when they entered a dead end. Luffy used his fist to open the way. After entering the food storehouse, Luffy ate very well. Nami wanted to punch him because this place was enemy territory, not his home. Then they started collecting food to leave before dawn. Suddenly the ground group came and started to challenge Luffy. All 3 of them began to rush in at the same time to attack Luffy. Chopper rushed down and punched Bonham repeatedly in the stomach, but it was like massaging Bonham. Bonham praised Chopper like a rat, and he also transformed his shape. With this shape, Bonham can attack Chopper continuously at lightning speed, causing Chopper to be unable to react and thrown away. When he taunts Chopper and lunges down, Chopper transforms his form to nullify Bonham's attacks. Bonham, enraged, begins to transform into a large form, wanting to break Chopper's defenses. But suddenly Chopper also transforms into a huge shape and punches a knockdown of Bonham. At this time, Luffy is running away with food, but he is attacked by Jabba. He wants to monopolize Nami and Carrot from Luffy, but as a result he is electrocuted by Carrot a second time. But suddenly he wakes up again and proposes to Nami and Carrot. He wanted Nami and Carrot to be his wives. Nami immediately took out the weather wand and released an electrically charged cloud egg, knocking him out. But as the 3 of them were about to leave, Jabba regained consciousness, this time turning the 2 swords into attacking flames, but was knocked out by Luffy, causing the buckets of water above to fall on Jabba's head. This huge amount of water pushed the 3 of them out. Suddenly, right outside, Ground appeared again and introduced his background, and at the same time he announced that Luffy's adventure would end here. Ground began to rush to attack Luffy frantically, but he was easily repelled by Luffy. Ground was surprised and wondered why Luffy was so strong. Luffy immediately says that since he was hungry before, he can't burst out with all his strength. Ground continues to lunge, but is hit by Luffy's second punch, which makes Ground feel so painful. He gets angry, uses his mechanical arm to attack Luffy, and then begins to explode in power from that arm. Ground also declared that he would defeat all the pirates and the 4 emperors, a majestic declaration that didn't last long. He was punched by Luffy and flew away again. Seeing that Ground was no longer capable of fighting, Luffy and his comrades left to return to the Sunny. When they arrived, suddenly Vice Admiral Brody ambushed them there. He couldn't let Luffy and his teammates escape because he thought the pirates' crimes were unforgivable. So Brody started to take his big cannon to attack Luffy. Brody didn't care how much food Luffy had taken. because he won't be able to escape anyway. If Luffy escapes, he will definitely lose his pension in retirement, and his dream of traveling around the world will be shattered. Nami doesn't understand what this old man is talking about underneath, but as long as they go to the submarine, they will escape successfully. Suddenly, Vice Admiral Brody aimed at the submarine and fired directly at it, causing the place to explode, which made everyone very worried. Brody introduces that when he was in the Navy Bureau, he used to fight Garp hand-to-hand with this same hockey cannonball. When Brody pulled the trigger for the next shot, Luffy quickly hugged Nami, and Chopper jumped under Brody's position. The Navy soldiers rushed over, but Nami used thunder to attack them. However, they used some kind of shield to block Nami's attack. It turned out that they had wrapped rubber around the shield to avoid the lightning bolts. However, it only blocked lightning and did not block the muscle strength such as Chopper. Nami uses a new type of move that transforms into various bodies and easily takes down the Marines. Brody sees that his subordinates can't do anything to Luffy's group, so he is very angry. Brody attacks Luffy repeatedly with a hockey cannon, but Luffy dodges easily. Then, he jumps up and punches Brody in the stomach with a bazooka blow. Brody loses consciousness and flies away, but Bonham holds him back. Bonham and Jabba were ready to fight again. Ground after being defeated, he became demoralized. He began to think and remembered his teacher Aokiji. That day, there was a mysterious power that was wreaking havoc on an island, and by chance, Aokiji is cycling on the sea. Aokiji is curious to go see what is going on that island. When Aokiji arrives, he finds out that the entire city has been completely destroyed by Ground because Ground can't control his monster arm. Ground sees Aokiji and shouts, "Please cut off this arm of his, because it's too terrible." Eventually, Aokiji freezes Ground's monster arm and takes him back to headquarters to train him to become a naval soldier. At this time, Ground had regained his spirits, stood up, and was determined to beat Luffy again. On the other side, Luffy used a series of punches to the face of Bonham and Jabba. He knocked them both down easily. At this time, Brook suddenly ran here in a safe state, making everyone happy and surprised. They think Brook is in danger. As everyone was about to leave, suddenly Ground plunged down from the air. Luffy immediately used Haki to stop him. Ground, with the determination not to let Luffy escape with this left arm, he declared that this day next year would be Luffy's death day. Ground began to burst out with all his power, creating a strong winds. The mechanical arm began to crack and explode to reveal a monster arm. Luffy saw this, told everyone to get on the ship first. He would chase everyone right after. Luffy took off his navy jacket and asked for Ground's name. After the two of them had introduced their names, both of them were ready to fight. Ground rushed to attack Luffy, but Luffy appeared at the top at lightning speed and punched down. But he was immediately pushed into the cliff by Ground. Luffy inflates his arm and punches Ground's monster arm, causing the place to shake violently. Luffy uses Haki to attack Ground, but he is thrown into the air by Ground. Luffy continues to use the Haki-wrapped Gear Third to prepare to attack Ground. Ground despised this move of Luffy and felt bored. Then he jumped up to block Luffy's giant fist. This blew away the small mountains and blew away Vice Admiral Brody's retirement. The two began to put all their strength into their fists in the air. Ground was determined to become stronger to defeat Luffy. But right now, Luffy increased the power of his punch and punched Ground in the face, causing him to fly down and lose consciousness. The next morning, after the battle, this place was just a pile of rubble. When Ground woke up to know that Luffy had left and suddenly laughed. Although he failed, Ground had learned a lot of lessons for himself, that he should never be arrogant and look down on his opponents. On the sunny boat, Nami is furious that all the food they had just stolen from the Navy was eaten up by Luffy, after which they continue their journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. If you feel like it's very good, go to my channel to watch more good episodes. Thank you and see you soon.